People have a way of making us feel like making our faults or whatever we did that was not right or whatever we went through, magnifying it, making it 10 times worse. So instead of oh, she left, but now she's back, and let's praise God that she's back. People can have a way of being like, ooh, did you hear what she did? Ooh, did you see it? I heard da 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 da, right? And so I think that it's important for us to understand that we can't get so caught up in what other people have to say, so caught up in other people's opinions, that it makes us bitter. Because when we do that, then we're not allowing God to get the full glory out of our lives, out of our situations, out of what we went through, because we're so busy being bitter because of what other people had to say or other people's opinions of what we did. And so I think that it's very important that we understand that once we repent, once we give it back to God, once we say, hey, God, I understand that I was outside of your will. I did some things that I wasn't supposed to do. And I understand that I wasn't completely 100% justified in making those choices. But Lord, I'm asking for your forgiveness. Lord, I'm turning away from those things that I was practicing, and I'm making an honest effort to do your will. Right? Once we do that and we make our relationship right with God, then what no one else has to say should affect us to the point that we become bitter or that we live our life bitterly because we're so concerned of over what other people have to say. And so now we're at chapter 2. And so in chapter 2, Naomi and Ruth are back in Bethlehem, Judah, and Ruth is going to the fields to glean. And so in the King James version of the Bible it says glean. I think in the version that we just read, which is the NIV, it talks about gathering what was left over. But so when they returned back to Bethlehem, Judah, they had a harvest. And so remember, when they left, they were in famine, meaning it was dry, nothing was growing, they weren't able to produce wheat. But when they come back, they're in a harvest. And so that reminded me that we have to have faith in God that He's going to provide, that He's not going to let the house of bread go without bread forever, right? And so earlier in chapter 1, Naomi and her husband, they didn't have faith that God was going to provide. They left the house of bread, and now when they come back, they're in harvest, meaning that there has been a change in the land, there has been a change in the situation. And so if we trust God, if we put our trust in Him and we know that He's going to provide for us, and we let things run their course, then we can have faith and know that there's going to be bread in the house. And so Ruth is going to glean in the fields. And so to glean means to gather the leftover grain. So in verse 2, when the wheat and barley were ready to be harvested, harvesters were hired to cut down the stalks to tie them into bundles. Israelite law deemed that the corners of the fields were not to be harvested. In addition, the grain that was supposed to be left for the poor. So what she was doing was she was going into the fields that were being harvested, and she was collecting what was dropped, what was left over in these fields. And so in we're going to keep reading. Can somebody start at verse 4 and just read?
Mm-hmm.
So Justin.
Did anybody want to read? Or otherwise I'm going to read. Okay. Jess, were you gonna read, sister?
I can't. I need to just make it like bigger. Hold on.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know how to.
If you can read all the way to verse 9, verse 4 to verse 9, that'd be awesome. Okay. Just then Boaz arrived from Bethlehem and greeted the Lord be with you. The Lord bless you, they answered. Boaz asked the overseer of his harvesters, who does that young woman belong to? The overseer replied, she is the Moabite who came back from Moab with Naomi. She said, please let me glean and gather among the sheaves behind the harvesters. She came into the field and has remained here from morning to now, except for a short rest in the shelter. So Boaz said to Ruth, my daughter, listen to me. Don't go and glean in another field, and don't go away from here. Stay here with the women who work for me. Watch the field where the men are harvesting and follow along after the women. I've told the men not to lay a hand on you, and whenever you get thirsty, go and get a drink from the water jars the men have filled. And so, at this point, Ruth is working in the fields, and Boaz comes out to greet the people that are working for him, and he automatically notices Ruth. Ruth. And so, my question that I have for the group is, why is it that you think that Boaz noticed Ruth? Anybody?
Because let me think about it.
Why did Boaz notice Ruth in the field? Maybe she was cute. Okay, who said that? Jess? Okay, so I think so she said maybe she was cute, and I think that could have very well been a good reason. Why? Because if you remember, Ruth had come from Moab. Ruth was not from Bethlehem, Judah. So she was a foreigner. She didn't look like everybody else. She stood out in the crowd because that's not where she was from. So think of it like this. I went to K-State. I had a lot of classes where I was the only person that looked like me in the whole entire class, right? And so, but whether we like to admit it or not, I stood out.
Mm-hmm.
If I wasn't there, it was noticed, right? So similar to this, Ruth was in a situation where she automatically stood out. Why? Because she was a foreigner. And she immediately caught the eye of Boaz. And I think I agree with Jess, probably because she was cute. Now, there is some evidence that the Moabite people were darker skinned people, right? They were melanated people. And so I felt like her melanin was popping or something.
Hey!
Because Boaz picked her out. But on a real life applicable level, right? I want to pose this question to everybody, and it's not something that you have to answer or unmute yourself, but just to think about. What is it about you that stands out? And it doesn't have to be on like a sexual level or on a physical attribute level, but as a human being, as a person, as a Christian, as a woman, if you were to walk in a room, what would it be about you that if you were to even if it wasn't a room full of women, if you were in a room full of people and God was looking down, what would he notice about you that stood out? Would he notice that you have faith like no other? Would he notice that you're a worshiper? Would he notice that you stay in your word? Would he notice what would it be about you that God noticed, right? So I'm not comparing Boaz to God at all, but I just thought that it was interesting that in this field full of people, full of workers, full of other poor people who were there to glean, full of women, because we know at the beginning of this chapter, it talks about how Boaz was an affluent man. He was um, a wealthy man. And so we know women, because we are women, if a nice, eligible bachelor with money was somewhere, and we could be in the presence of that person to catch their eye, there will be. I'm not saying that we. I'm not saying that any of you. I'm just saying. So please don't take this the wrong way. But women like to be places where they can catch the eye of someone who might notice them, right? And so we can just imagine that there's lots of other women in this field who were gleaning. There's lots of other people in this field who were working and harvesting. But out of all these people, there was something about Ruth